All right, we're live and recorded live. I guess everything's recorded live, huh?
F it.
You're not.
F it. We'll do it live. We'll do
You're
it
not
live.
hearing it live, but we're hearing it live right now. You'll hear it live later.
Yeah. And believe me, their hearing it live is way better than our hearing it live.
Ugh, no joke. No joke. Tired of listening to you guys. It's not bad enough I got to read your texts all week. I got to listen to you for 2 hours a week. Sometimes
I know,
more.
dude. Ever since you're like, you get this new gig and everything, we don't hear from you very much during the day.
What? Oh, I know. Yeah, I haven't been texting as much. I know. A lot of it is like Josh put out something this morning while I was driving. He said, "What do you think about?" And I'm sure we'll talk about this one. Do you think that the Epstein, whatever stuff is going to hurt Trump in the midterms? I'm like, I'm driving right now. I don't want to just say no because that's not enough meat on that. Like, no, and why? You can't do that while you're driving. And then sometimes it's like, you've only got like 30 seconds, a minute, you don't want to, that's not enough time to dedicate a good answer to a good question like that, And I do that in my personal life too with text messages where I'll get back to him in a minute when I've got like 5 minutes to respond to this. And then I don't. It goes and it moves to the bottom. I did that with my sister on accident last week. But yeah, man. So that's one reason.
Well, so go ahead and hit up the Epstein.
Yeah,
Epstein
take it away, Josh.
All right, Luke. Do you think the lack of the release of the Epstein list is going to hurt Trump in the midterms?
I think Trump will be hurt in the midterms, but I don't think that'll be the primary reason. We know how short memories are, right? And like Roger said, I feel the same way he does. We care about it. The three of us care about it. A lot of people that listen to this care about it and are, justly possibly outraged based on what they said leading up to it. But memory with the regular person is very short. And Epstein didn't kill himself is just a meme. I think it's going to have more to do with the economy, inflation, stock market. It's all about the economy, stupid, or whatever transpires, Ukraine, Israel, Iran, so on and so forth. I do think he will be affected by something, immigration, maybe. I don't know. But I don't know if the Epstein thing is going to hurt him. It hurt Pam Bondi. She'll never be forgiven for that. Kash Patel, but the average person doesn't really pay attention to Pam Bondi or Kash Patel, in my opinion.
Speaking of Pam Bondi, what is it with Trump and hiring generally terrible people?
Like Elon Musk. I don't know. I don't know about that. Again, the Epstein thing is just, I think we all know what's going on there. There are far too many powerful people on that list globally. And maybe there could be a dozen reasons why they're not releasing it. And Trump being on there, I don't know, probably not. But maybe being used as leverage. I mean, hell, back in 2003, just little old me, Staff Sergeant Jones, saw some dirty tricks going on, trying to muscle some countries into backing the 2003 invasion of Iraq. So, I mean, and I just can't imagine how dirty this one is. As far as her being bad, I don't know. Are you judging it just on the Epstein, or are you looking at other stuff too?
No, whole person.
What makes you say she's so bad?
Well, she's ineffective.
With Epstein and what else?
Just like her entire role as Attorney General. What has she done? What has she done since she's been in office? What has she accomplished since she's been in office? And
well, I think every one of the SCOTUS cases that he's won, she technically represents the U.S. government and his interests with them. And I think we could agree that he's had some pretty big SCOTUS wins, right?
Right, but she wasn't in front of SCOTUS arguing. So I mean, yeah, she may represent, but she's not the one there preparing cases and arguing. So,
you can't say she doesn't prepare cases. I don't know if she does or doesn't. I don't know how much of a role she plays in it or not. But I mean, at least with the SCOTUS stuff, I mean.
Let me ask you this, Roger. if you had a list of people who trafficked and abused children, and like Luke said, very powerful people in the world, not just in the United States, but globally, very powerful people, would you release that list? Would you say, damn the torpedoes, I'm sending this to every news outlet, every podcaster, I'm sending this to Matt Taibbi, right? Would you do that?
Yeah, sitting here, I'd like to say I would, absolutely. But again, I really do agree with Luke on and dude, we called this from the very beginning. It was like the JFK files. Hey man, if anybody's waiting to see anything else come out of the JFK files, let me, spoiler alert, it ain't happening. And with Epstein files, they were never going to come out. And it doesn't matter if it was Pam Bondi. It doesn't matter, who the AG was. It doesn't matter who's in president. I think there are too many forces that are involved. There are too many powerful people that are involved. And I don't have any other insight other than what we all, know and read from the news or whatever. But, I just think there were too many other people involved. It was going to implicate too many people. And I think there's just this agreement that they're not going to disrupt the system.
What about you, Luke? Same question.
Again, what do we say? It all depends, right? It depends on, are there any cases ongoing? Because if there's cases ongoing, you can't release it. You jeopardize your entire case.
The DOJ said today that the Epstein case is closed as far as they are concerned.
Well, then they should release it.
There's no cases ongoing. You have the list of names. You have the list of names of people who sexually abused little girls. Do you release it? Do you say, damn the torpedoes, and I don't care who these people are?
Again, I mean, if the case against all those people is absolutely closed, not just Epstein, but if the case on all those people is closed, well, then yeah, you release it. Sure, why not? But I don't know all the details behind it. Honestly, I have been following the Epstein thing very closely. But you asked about some of her accomplishments, like what has she done? And, obviously we have Chat GPT nowadays, and I'll run some of these by you. Lifting the federal moratorium on the death penalty, prioritizing, which I don't know what that is, because Texas, I'm pretty sure while that moratorium was in place, they didn't abide by that. Prioritizing DOJ support for immigration enforcement, including mass deportation efforts against sanctuary policies in states like New York. It just goes on, firing several DOJ prosecutors and FBI agents involved in January 6, 2021. I'm not going to say she's done nothing, but I'm also not going to sing her praises to the high heaven. Not going to call her the best, but, I don't know. I just haven't been following the Epstein thing too closely. If it's just completely done and over with, sure, release it. Why not?
I think my main problem with it is it's the transparency, right? You come into office and all of a sudden it's I've got the list on my desk, right? Because I think she actually tweeted that or exited or whatever, right?
Yes.
I've got the list on my desk, and then all of a sudden months later it's like, oh yeah, there's no list. Okay, so are you lying then or are you lying now? Like when are we lying, right?
And what is the list? I have questions, right? Like, what is the list? Is the list of people just people who have been on his plane, or is it a list of people that he ever had any interaction with, or is it an actual client list of people that, you've described it, Josh? I don't know which ones that list is, because if guilty strictly by association, think about it. You might have associated with the guy just on one occasion. He paid for a limo to get to a big party or something. Doesn't make you a pedophile. I don't know. I don't have enough info. And maybe that info's out there and I should look into it,
So it's interesting because Peter Doocy asked this question today during the White House press conference. And he asked, okay, the AG said that she had the list on her desk. That was a quote, right? And then they had all the stupid social media influencers, go to the White House and walk out with their stupid binders. The Epstein files, phase 1, right? and then turned around and, the information that was contained in those binders was information that had already been released. And that's when they were, that was hey, here's who was on Epstein's plane at one point or another, right? Because that's when it came out. Well, Bill Clinton was on there, 16 times or however many times. And then, and then next thing there's other stuff. And then today's, well, there is no list. And they didn't traffic, they didn't traffic kids to anybody. And Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for trafficking kids to nobody. And Jeffrey Epstein hung himself for trafficking kids to apparently nobody.
Well, why isn't she singing? Right. Here's why it doesn't add up. Right. Because if I'm her, and real quick, I'm sorry, I totally interrupt you. I just chat GPT the list. So there isn't a list. There's several lists. It's the flight logs, which we knew those have been out there. Yeah. The Lolita Express. Then you had the Black Book, which was basically his contact list. And then there's, these court documents, which were supposedly other lists that had witnesses in there, maybe some other info, some business dealings or whatever. So I think there's several documents in there. But to your point, Josh, I was thinking about this, Maxwell being in prison. Like, have they threatened her entire family or something? Is this like the Gestapo? Like, you open your mouth and we're gonna kill your dog and drown your fish, or like what? You don't hear anything out of her.
No, and and it's a great question, to understand why. But there's so many other things that it just does not support what they said today. It just doesn't, or yesterday. I'm sorry, and they dropped it on a Sunday. Right, they dropped it on a Sunday of a holiday weekend is when they come out and announce this. That's when it came out. So I guess I guess Ghislaine Maxwell is in jail for nothing. I guess Melinda Gates divorced Bill Gates for absolutely no reason. Right? I don't buy that there's no list. I just don't. And because when it first broke, when the whole Epstein thing first broke, they talked about there were hundreds of hours of video of, kids being, sexually exploited. Well, were all those videos, was it just him? Because he had all these rooms wired for video and sound. It was like a Diddy party. And he wired all those rooms for video and sound and had a control room.
Not guilty.
Just for him.
He's guilty.
It does it. Yeah. Oh no, man. I don't buy it. And I think anybody in the federal government who has that list, who has the names of people who have hurt kids and do not release that list, I think they're cowards. I think they're moral cowards. I don't care what it does to the government. I don't care what it does to the, the order of things. If we can't protect little kids, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
Burn it all down. Like, seriously, burn it all down. We are not willing to protect kids. Just burn it all down, because there's really no point in it.
Oh, and it is very valid, right? Because when you look at, and I had to look up her charges, because a lot of times it's like the P. Diddy thing. We'll get into that in a minute, I'm sure. But you hear all the court cases and the trials, but what they're actually charged and convicted with. So she basically got 20 years, which not a whole lot of years when you look at what she's convicted of. So previously found guilty 2021, 1 month jury trial, conspiracy to entice minors to travel to engage in illegal sex acts, conspiracy to transport minors participate in illegal sex acts, transporting a minor to participate in illegal sex acts, sex trafficking conspiracy, and sex trafficking of a minor. So, with all that being said, and I think this is to Josh's point, where are the other people that are involved in this? Like, when do those charges come forward, right? Because so she was involved in all this stuff. That means, okay, Epstein was the one with the Lolita Express and, was funneling people back and forth and whatever. And maybe he did some stuff as well. I mean, I don't know. Ghislaine was the one who was basically the one, responsible for the movement. Well, there's clients on that end, right? Which kind of goes back to when you say list, the Epstein list. That's what I'm thinking of. There are clients that perform those acts, right? And I think those are the ones that we're saying are the high profile people. And I agree with you, man. I was like, hey, dude, they should be prosecuted. And if I'm Maxwell, I think it just goes to prove my point. that the people that are involved in this stuff are at such a level that even her doing 20 years, it's better for her, in her opinion, her mind, to shut her mouth and do her 20 years than it is to tell all and probably get Epstein.
So I guess Prince Andrew got tossed out of the royal family for nothing.
No, I'm with you, dude.
Yes, they DOJ. It does none of it adds up. None of it adds up. And there's, I mean, not that I trusted the government a whole lot before. I definitely don't trust it now. It's kabuki theater. It's what it is.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm with you. If 2 years from now, nothing just kind of goes away, I'm with you. But, I try to lesson learned through, what do you say, pain and repetition, just to kind of give it some time. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just like, I want to give this some time and see what shakes out. And you're probably right. Probably nothing will shake out, but I'm going to give it just a little bit of time, see what shakes out. But yeah, Prince Andrew's not going to be prosecuted by anybody. That's not going to happen. But you'd think there's somebody on, gosh, such a crazy thing. But you guys know why it's not. If they're doing nothing with it, you guys know why. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I understand why. Right? I understand why. But it's cowardice. It's 100% cowardice.
Yeah, and what's the answer to 99 out of 100 questions? Money and power.
Well, and it's crazy too, because when you look at Elon Musk's history, like he's been very vocal, against sex trafficking, even with like porn on X and stuff like that, which I have to say in the last year, I probably haven't heard him say anything about it. But you would have to think that he would be privy to some of that stuff somewhere, right? Like, especially with all the Doge. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. I'm sure they keep stuff like that pretty close hold, but it's also just kind of funny. And I'm not implicating that he's involved in any of that stuff. I'm just saying, he was a pretty big advocate against, sex trafficking and that type of stuff. He was very vocal about it. And then all of a sudden you just don't hear him saying anything about it anymore. Just weird.
Yeah. So it's not 4D chess between Elon and Trump, right, Josh?
No, that is not 4D chess. It just, dude, look, man, I voted for Trump 3 times. All right. He's not that smart.
Only 2 counted, maybe 1.5.
Well, yeah.
They threw the other ballot out.
You think Trump's not that smart?
The tens of millions of illegals discounted my vote. He's not. Look, the feud that they started publicly when, Elon left and was like, hey, all right, I'm done with Doge. I'm leaving because you guys aren't going to make all the cuts that I recommended. Okay. So that was not orchestrated by Trump and Elon. That was not orchestrated by their PR teams. Right. That was Elon legitimately being upset that they were not going to make all the cuts to Doge, because he's been very vocal on the national debt. Right. He's been very vocal about it. Even before Doge, he was vocal about it. And to think that this is, and now this new America Party thing, to think this is something that, they cooked up together and they're playing, this is all, theatrics, and there's a 4D chess, and it's, what it has? It has the 2020 trust the plan vibes, right? When you guys say like there is 4D chess, it's not. It is not 4D chess. I'm telling you.
I don't think the whole thing is. I don't think the America Party and stuff like that. I think Elon's just doing his thing at that point. I do think the initial split was planned. And then from there, I think, Elon is legit butthurt. And I agree with him. I mean, the more and more I read the bill, I like a large part of what's in the bill. What I don't like about it, and I don't even think Trump can solve this problem. Here's the problem with the bill. Okay. And I don't care about the CBO and all the experts and this and that. Dude, we've been listening to experts for 5 years, right? And they're wrong on everything because they're just anti-Trump. But the big, beautiful bill does not solve or cure the underlying disease that we have in the federal government, which is spending, right? So with the big, beautiful bill, I mean, just about everybody gets tax cuts. I was reading that today, and there's some really good things in there. And the idea is to, have growth, right? to pour gasoline on that growth. And with growth, higher wages, more jobs, unemployment's down, blah, 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 blah. More people pay taxes, more taxes are paid. But here's the thing. It's a spending problem. Like, millions of us have said before, it's a spending problem. It is not a taxing or an income problem. So, when you look at it from, my point of view, one, let's be real. The debt ain't getting paid down. Not in our lifetime. I think we said that last show. Dude, that ain't going to happen. There ain't going to be one nickel that gets paid down this debt while any of us three are alive. That's the reality of it. If we save money or we bring in more revenue, all the federal government's going to do is to continue to spend. And I think when you look at Elon, Elon, his philosophy, I think is a lot like, what Josh and Luke, you've said this a couple of times too. Hey, it's going to take the people willing to be very, very uncomfortable for a significant period of time, right? To get the train back on the track with the federal debt or the federal budget. And that's just not going to happen. There's not a politician out there that's going to get elected running on that. It's just not going to happen. I mean, even when you look at the big, beautiful bill now, I've heard all this Medicaid and this and that and cuts. It's amazing. Like, because, Trump won a 16 million. I guess he got 16 million from CBS over the 60 Minutes fiasco that went on. He should sue them over all the big, beautiful bill because they're not cuts. Cuts is a reduction. Okay. I.e., hey, Luke, you're making $100 a week. I'm going to cut that to 50. That's a cut. Okay. What they're doing is when they talk about cuts in relation to the federal budget, it's cuts in the increase over 10 years. So, hey, you were going to get 15% next year, but you're only going to get 10. And the way that plays out in the media is a cut. But the reality is the spending continues to increase. And I think when you look at from Elon's point of view, he's like, hey, man, it's time for people to get uncomfortable. Right. And the reality is no politician is going to sit there and campaign on that to get the national debt or national budget back on track.
You guys better hope you don't get what you wish for, because entitlements are not going to be cut. Never. They might be trimmed down in the future with Social Security. Like it'll be a sliding scale based on what your income is outside of Social Security. When you turn 77, first of all, they'll up the age, right? Right now, what is it? And
I think we're at 69 and a half, 69 and 10 months,
69
right?
and a half. And you could take it early and you get less of a payout or something like that.
Right.
But it'll be up to 75 by the time we're at that age. Guarantee it. And the thing they'll say is, well, because life expectancy is going up, people can stay longer in the workforce. Because us Gen Xers, we're going to work forever. Even though you guys talk all that gang about retiring, you're not. You'll continue to do something and stimulate the economy somehow. But again, back to careful what you wish for. It will be a lot easier to cut than entitlements, than Medicaid, welfare, Social Security, veterans benefits. That'd be extremely easy to cut compared to the social welfare system. So careful what you wish for, because they're going to come after that when the austerity measures hit. I don't say if, like when they hit, unless there's some kind of renaissance, which I think they're pushing for a renaissance with the AI stuff and the power grid and stuff like that. So much more power could be, but it's going to have to be big. It's going to have to be really big, like 1950s big, for there to be any hope of our social benefits.
And that's why we need another war. Because I tell you, we got, I hate to say it, but you look at troop pay and benefits and this and that all happened because we were in 2 decades of conflict. And here's the thing, you go through about 7-8 years of peacetime. You're absolutely right, dude. I mean, the first thing is, well, you know what? You don't really need that, because now, what is it? Don't they do a blended where, you get, some 401k or whatever, and 40%. Well, you really don't need 40%. I really think you only need 30. And, you don't really need, TRICARE for forever. And maybe your premium needs to go up a little bit. That's exactly what will get cut if you don't have another war in the next half a decade. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, your TRICARE runs out when you transition, when you hit 62, and you transition over to Medicare anyway.
Yeah, I think it goes to like TRICARE for life. So there's like a subsidy there with like an A and a B or whatever the hell it is. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not that much. So my issue with the big beautiful bill was they removed the Short Act and the Hearing Protection Act from it, right? Which would have taken suppressors and SBRs off of the NFA. They would no longer be NFA items, right? So the only thing that happened with that was now that $200 tax stamp that you had to pay to, buy an NFA item, now that tax stamp is zero. So now you can just go, you just go buy your suppressor, your SBR, whatever NFA item you're buying. I get the spending right on the bill. The other thing that I think the other good thing that I think it did was it did fund ICE. It gave ICE a budget. I think it's bigger than the U.S. Marine Corps, right? Which I will happily pay extra taxes and pay pay taxes toward ICE deporting people. I have no problem paying for that. What I do have a problem with is paying for gender studies in Pakistan and paying for, USAID to, do whatever they were doing in East Africa for the agency, helping them with targeting. It's like, I don't need to pay USAID my money for that. My taxes already go to the CIA. I don't need USAID to help them, as they were doing. So the whole Elon thing, the whole American Party thing is stupid. It is absolutely stupid when you look at it. Did you guys see the registration that Elon put out? Like the financial guy, some of his the leadership in the newly established American Party, they're all Indians. They're all dot Indians. And it's like, okay, man, read the room, Elon. The American Party right now, and nobody can pronounce any of the names of the people that you're hiring to run this thing. Hey man, Vivek was not the presidential nominee for a reason, right? He might not win the governorship of Ohio for a reason. That's all I'm saying. But kind of, talking about the the big beautiful bill of the American Party is, did you guys read Cynical Publius, his article that he posted out on American Greatness? It's good. It's good. You should read it. And he kind of lays out, right? So he's actually a lawyer for a lot of Silicon Valley startups and stuff like that. And he talked about the mentality of, folks like Elon, very binary thinking, true, false, yes, no, 1, 0. Right. And, and he laid out, he made a pretty good argument how the American Party is not going to help anybody except for the Democrats, simply because one, the 2-party system is going to crush any third party that tries it, and a lot of folks have tried it. And he laid out, talking about Teddy Roosevelt, with the Bull Moose Party, and all the way up to, the recent one in our lifetime, good old Ross, I got a chart Perot. He did not help anybody except for the left. And that's what the American Party is going to do. It's going to pull votes from the GOP because the left has already decided that Elon is, he's associated, he's tied to Trump now. He's basically Hitler. We're going to go burn down Teslas and, set them on fire and everything. They're not going to vote for anything Elon's got his hands in. And so it's going to pull votes from the GOP.
Well, I think it depends, though, because a lot of the stuff that we've seen in the past with third parties is at a national level. And you guys correct me, I haven't read a whole lot into the America Party, but from what I've read, positions that he was going to target were specifically 8 to 10 House seats. And I think he said like 2 to 3 Senate seats. And that could be interesting, right? So you don't worry about the national level election because you can't win. And I think Josh 100% correct on that. You just end up splitting the Republican vote. But I tell you what, man, you grab 2 or 3 Democrat seats and 2 or 3 Republican House seats, you'll control the House. I don't even know about the Senate. The House is a lot easier to win those districts. The Senate, I don't know if he can really grab a seat or 2. But dude, you grab 6 House seats and then you happen to wrap in a couple Democrats in there, as well as GOP, because historically what happens at the midterms is, the party that's in power loses control, right, of one house, if not both houses. It's usually pretty brutal. So just assuming that, history is going to repeat itself. And it's like, hey, man, if he's able to snag a couple of those and then snag a couple of Democrat seats, I don't know, Luke, it could be a lot different. It's not on the federal level, national level that we've seen in the past, but you could really, really control Congress if you have a group of 6 to 10 that are bipartisan, right? A bipartisan group of, representatives.
Yeah, could be. I think with the whole Elon thing and what is it called? America Party, America First, what America
It's
something?
The America Party.
The America Party. Okay, this is his touch of the tism flowing through, and I do think that cynical Publius had it spot on. Is that, and he never said the word autism or spectrum or anything. But if you read between the lines, he's talking. It's a very engineer mindset, right? There's no room for ambiguity in an engineer mindset, right? And then complexity is different than ambiguity. Okay, those are two totally different things. Where there is no right answer, that's ambiguity. The trolley problem, right? Y'all are familiar with the trolley problem. You got 3 people on one track, and there's somebody shifting the rails, and there's one person on the other track. There's no right answer there.
Nope.
It's like, explain why you make that decision. Engineers, especially folks on the spectrum, don't do well with that. They do well with complexity, but not ambiguity. I don't know. Elon's one of these guys. He's truly got FU money, because if he really was all about the money, he would not be making this move. Not even a little bit. When we're on the verge of all this stuff that might go through with, nuclear power data centers, nationwide, lifting all these restrictions, and these all of these power centers are going to need battery storage. The only viable battery storage right now is coming out of Tesla, as far as storing power. And I guess it's a good thing for his character. It's a good testament to his character, but yeah, I don't think it's good for the country, even though I do think we should have more than 2 parties. But again, I also think that Iraqis should, have democracy, but that's never going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I get the desire for multiple parties, right? I more than 2 parties, because I hate the Democrats and I hate the GOP. But then you start running into the potential balkanization, right? It's like, okay, if there's 17 political parties, then somebody wins the presidency with 27% of the vote.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
And so
you get too many parties, you have to move to a parliamentarian system, which is not the system.
100%.
So because people, the parliamentary system, having witnessed it firsthand, and I think you guys have too, to a point, is it's a mess. It's a big mess. It involves a lot of compromise. And the government moves really slow. We like the government to move slow, right? We don't like a bunch of laws to be written. I do think there is room for more compromise, but I'll tell you this: the American psyche is not built for a parliamentarian type system.
No.
It's just not. We're fighters.
No.
We don't like to compromise on anything on both sides. And one point I thought of real quick, and I know I kind of cut you off there, but one thing I thought of is that, and I just lost it. Oh, shit. The 3-party system. What was it? Oh, dang it. Oh, yeah. We said it could hurt you said it could hurt the Democrat Party or the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And then Roger's like, you never know. Well, I think if I had to toss a coin and make a call, I would say it's going to hurt the Republican Party more, because I believe that Republican voters are less vote red no matter who than Democrats are vote blue no matter who. In other words, Republicans will look. That's why Ross Perot won. They'll look, I'm tired of more of the same. I'm going to vote my conscience and vote this way. And I think Republicans are more apt to do that than Democrats. So if it's going to hurt one or the other, I think it will hurt Republicans somehow. But you never know. Again, you never know.
I think it depends on what they target, right? So pulling up, and again, it's early, but you look at the Cook political report. So of those that are coming up, this strictly the House, there are 10 Democrat toss-ups that he could go after, 2 or 3. And then you've got 8 Republican toss-ups. Funny, because two of them are here in Arizona, so that could be interesting. So, does he sit there and say, hey, I'm going to target 3 Democrat seats and 3 Republican seats. And I tell you, some of these with like Schweikart and Siscomani out here in Arizona, I mean, he gets the right candidate, he absolutely could win.
Dude,
100%.
what if it really is 4D chess and Musk approaches Fetterman and says, hey, be a part of this third party. If Fetterman comes over to this third party and it gets a couple other moderate Democrats, it's like, whoa. But I'm
already in bizarro world, dude, because I can't actually, I have to go back. I have to go back to when he was Mr. Potato Head, running against Oz before I could find something that I disagree with him on, because like ever since Trump got elected, man. And I think when you guys called it, he's just really good at reading those tea leaves and reading the people, because 99% of the stuff that he says now, I'm like, yeah, I actually kind of agree with you on that, man.
Yeah. I'm telling you, you remember that debate that he had with Oz, to where, I mean, he couldn't string together a coherent sentence. And you're like, this guy's done. This guy's done. And then, he wound up and got elected. And, then he gets in there and he really, really started, railing against when, on October 7th, when, Hamas went into Israel and, killed all those, concert goers and everything. Dude, he came out and he has sided with the GOP on damn near everything.
You think that's because of Shapiro as the governor and how he won the governor race?
I think that's I think that's a part of it. But I also think, like, who you haven't seen? You haven't seen Fetterman's wife. Mm-hmm. You have not seen her with him in a year.
That's
and people have asked questions, and it gets tossed to the side because
he ain't seen her either.
Yeah, he ain't seen her either, because she bounced. She was like, this stroke really did change you. And she bounced because she was a pretty hard, like, she's a pretty hard lefty. And she was out there in the anti-Israel protests and stuff like that. And so I think they're, probably not divorced. They're just conveniently separated, so not create any turbulence during his, time in office. But yeah.
So I told this story on here before, and if you got something else to say on that, just feel free to ignore this. But I've told this story before about how my granddad served in World War II over in Europe. He's an anti-aircraft gunner. And that dude, when he got into his late 50s, early 60s, that dude bought a Volkswagen. But he never, ever bought a Toyota. And he is rolling over in his grave if he knew, in his words, don't clip me and take this out of context, if he knew that I bought one of them Jap cars, he's rolling over in his grave. Yeah. And I'm a Toyota man. But, and I think part of the reason was because it was that surprise attack. And the propaganda was so much stronger against the Japanese, especially at the end of the war, than it was against the Germans. It went on for longer, right? So he never forgave the Japanese for that. And, I find myself in a position today where it's like, well, if the Al-Nusra Front starts making good cars, will I buy one? Because they're no longer terrorists, according to the State Department. They were removed from the FTO list, Foreign Terrorist Organization list. And they were no joke, Al-Qaeda. And the current president over there of Syria, strongly backed by Turkey, and we could really delve into this geopolitically. That dude had a $10, $15 million bounty on his head as of a year and a half ago. And now he's no longer a terrorist. There are rumblings that two countries the U.S. is making a big push for two countries to sign on to the Abraham Accords, one being Azerbaijan and the other one being, ding, 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 Syria. Maybe that's the way it's going to go. Maybe Erdogan, the president of Turkey, is about to get a ton of F-35s, and this is part of the deal. But, at the end of the day, this boils, a lot of stuff can come out of this. But the big thing is, in my opinion, is we are screwing the Kurds yet again. Because the only reason Turkey would back anybody is as a hedge against the Kurdish, the Kurdistan, Greater Kurdistan. So again, I see this as a big FU to the Kurds, which that's a shame. But again, I'm going to Doesn't seem like a good idea, guys, to have the al-Nusra Front no longer terrorists. Doesn't seem like a good idea because there's this thing called blowback that we've been dealing with since the 1950s, and it hardly ever works out well. I would like to hear some good blowback, that ever happened from anything the State Department or CIA decided to do.
So I think, and I didn't remember this when you initially shared that clip that al-Nusra is no longer a foreign terrorist organization.
It's weird, right?
It's wild, right? It's like, it's like us sending, hundreds of millions of dollars to the Taliban. It's like Roger said, a bizarre world, right? We just kind of live in a bizarre world now. But I did see a week and a half ago, to where Syria, the de facto government, said that they are willing to concede a large portion of the Golan Heights to Israel. So I bet this was part of that was, hey, we'll give, a portion of the Golan Heights. They want to keep a third of it, but they'll concede the rest to Israel. I bet a large part of that was, you have to take us off the the terrorist list. And Turkey, like you said, Turkey's probably going to get a bunch of F-35s. And the Kurds, man, if
they're going to get what's brought to them by the F-35s.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. They're going to be on the receiving end of those things. They are going to be on the receiving end of those things for sure. But, there was talk, with al-Nusra, ATS, there was talk about the Kurds getting the northeast part of Syria. Them actually, they were going to concede, like, where's that, up toward like Hasaka, area. They would actually give them that potentially, right? Specifically the SDF. But one of the things the SDF had to do was turn in all their weapons, which that ain't gonna happen. Mazloum will not do that. He's pretty pragmatic, but Mazloum would rather make a deal with al-Nusra than with the Turks. Because you remember when we were there, he was, I heard him, with my own 2 ears say, I will make a deal with the Russians if I have to, before I will deal with the Turks.
Yeah.
So,
in a way, I understand it also, the whole, there's so much, it's so complicated over there with the Kurds, the Turks, the Syrians, the, former Ba'ath, the Shiites, the Sunnis. It's multi-layered. But again, I'm going to go back to what's the answer to most questions is money. And, there's a pipeline that everyone wants that goes right through Kurdish territory. Everyone wants it. The Kurds want it. The Turks want it. The U.S. wants it. Russia wants it. Europe wants it. Everybody wants this LNG pipeline. And they've never been able to do it because it's Syria and Iraq, and everything's been messed up there since a long time. So, yeah, it's a mess, man. It's a tangle, and we'll see. But it is, Roger's 100%, is a bizarre world, man. It's really, really weird because A&F, I mean, they were no joke. I mean, they were blowing legit. Those dudes up, man. And woof, man.
So and we've been trying to bring Syria in the mix for the last, several months anyway, but it's amazing to me that I guess now, I don't know, maybe they're listening to C3 and they're just like, hey, democracy is not for everybody. When you look at the conflict they've had with Assad, maybe they're just like, hey man, it's better to have, your jihadists in here running an Islamic State as long as they keep it in Syria. Never mind the ties to Al-Qaeda or anything like that. That's all good. So I guess we're beyond that. Well, because GWAT's over. So GWAT's over. So that's a previous, chapter. So as long as they just keep it contained to Syria, we're all good with it, man.
Have you guys seen the two weird reports coming out that the SVR, that's the former KGB, got some internal files from China outlining China's strategic plans for Russia, where it's like they want to make a drive north, not militarily, but influence wise and all that stuff. They want to make a drive north, towards Siberia. And that has historically, since recorded history, never worked out well. And also, what else was it? There was another report, but also the Chinese foreign minister, whatever, was over in Europe. And he just, I don't know if it was lost in translation because, oh yeah, China's stance is we want the war in Ukraine to go on forever because that benefits us almost in every way, and everybody was like, everybody got the vapors. And China really backtracked that. And like, whoa, he didn't mean like that. And it's like, well, he did say it pretty clearly.
Did you see the details about their march on Russia and like heading north? Like, I'm kind of curious on what that actually looked like.
It's been a week since I read it, and I did send it to you guys. I'll track it down because I marked it. But it's similar to Belt Road.
It's gray zone. It's gray zone warfare.
Yeah. Because they want access to what Siberia has. Russia just doesn't have the capacity to pull it out of the ground.
They want access to natural resources.
Dude, and that's a good thing. And what have we been saying? To drive a wedge between those two countries, good luck, China. I mean, good luck in the long term making that work. Because again, I just have a hard time ignoring history where it's like the Chinese and Russians historically do not get along. So it's like, again, we've said it how many times? Probably a dozen. The right play strategically here, big picture, is to back Russia against China because Russia's not as much of a threat as China is. Not even close, despite what super smart CIA case officers say, because they're right all the time,
Yeah. So it's all about natural resources. And, the article that Luke pushed talked a little bit about it. But that drive north, it's going to be, it's not, the two PLA is not hopping in their, their T-82s and T-92s and stuff and driving north. One, because it's not going to work. And two, they have that, that country called Mongolia. They'd have to go across, and the Mongolians aren't going to let that happen. They're going to resurrect Genghis Khan or Genghis, sorry, to stop that. But when you look at the natural resources in Siberia, and when you look at what's that lake, Luke, Lake Baikal?
Yeah, Baikal. Yep.
It has it holds 25% of the Earth's unfrozen fresh water. It's some crazy amount.
It's the deepest lake in the world.
Yeah. And when you're looking at that, and if you're China and you have to fuel and, cool and power a bunch of hydroelectric dams, you got to, do that. And you got to cool a bunch of data centers and stuff like that. You're going to need access to fresh water.
Okay. I got my wires crossed on that. The SVR getting a hold of files was about China spying on Russia. Okay. This right here, Roger, was just an opinion think piece in the Hill about China going north, and which is backed up by, well, if you just look at it and look at Belt Road, it's a pretty good article. But I got my wires crossed on that. SVR did not get these files saying that was China's plan, but they did get files saying Russia's not our friend, basically, and we're going to continue the full court press on spying, which China does seem to be ramping that up just across the board. Or at least we're getting smart and finding it now, because just over the course of the last couple of months, there's been a lot of activity on that front. The Stanford deal, the Stanford study saying that, saying what we've said on this podcast before about Chinese students, and then the two non-official cover guys who are here, one out of Houston, one out of Oregon, I think, who've been here spying for just years, doing the footwork, right? Not really case officers, but they were doing the footwork, picking up bags of cash, support assets. Yeah. Crazy. China's the threat.
Were those the two that were targeting the Navy base? Too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Old school dead drop, man. I like that. Old school dead drops, some cash, all that other good stuff.
That's what I was trying to tell people, because, people are, they're like tech, look at all your, all of your espionage activity is, being conducted online and Texas like that. And it's like, no, a lot of that is going back to sticks and bricks to defeat the tech, right? It goes back to that whole, I'm not going to try and hack into your company. I'm going to go recruit somebody in your company that already has placement and access. Right. It sticks and bricks, a lot of stuff's pivoting back to that. Trying to explain that to somebody here recently, and they told me I was wrong. I was like, okay, cool. Sounds great. Know what you're talking about, but whatever.
It goes back and forth.
Yeah, ebbs and flows, like everything.
The more digital it becomes, the more analog you have to become. I mean, we're going back to old school. Hey, I'm going to write the instructions on this piece of paper, and then I'm going to eat it and swallow it. And if you want to get it, well, good luck, pulling it out of my digestive tract or whatever.
Yeah,
which
much more reliable.
Funny though. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Ever since you had me listen to that podcast about like nuclear energy, like, dude, that is all. Well, one, it might be Elon listening to my stuff or whatever, but that's all I'm seeing right now is, God bless it, dude. I can't remember the guy's name, but remember he was talking about the energy production and consumption of China compared to the U.S. I think it was over like 20 years, right? And he was like, over the last 5 years, China's doubled. They're going to quadruple in the next 5 years or whatever. And dude, I've been seeing all these charts just popping up on my news and feeds or whatever. It's like, it's insane, man. I mean, China's
Worldwide
consumption and production of energy is incredible. And I, he said it, and I think I've heard Elon say it now. It's just like, it's really going to come down to energy.
Yep.
If you've got the energy, you're going to be a superpower, or you'll be up there, right? Because I tell you, I was talking to one of our listeners today who I have to shoot something to you because it's pretty incredible. But, over the course of the last 2 years, when we really talked about AI, it's still like, well, it's not really AI yet. I mean, I know they're calling it AI, but it's large language models, machine learning or whatever. By God, man, it's getting close. I mean, I tell you what, when you look at those conversations that we had a year or 2 years ago, that was the Stone Age. And my mind is a little boggled by it. And I tell you, I might have to shoot you this video that one of our listeners made. He was like, dude, I just did a graphic video for like 30 seconds or whatever. And remember back in the day, we talked about stable diffusion, and I was like, text to image. It's massive, right? Well, now it's not even that. It's text to video. But I'm going to shoot you a copy of this thing. Dude, it is incredible what he did in like 40 minutes with $20.
So when is it gonna be, you feed it a bunch of prompts, right? I got a 45-minute presentation I got to give, and it's got to be over X, Y, and Z based on these files in my file explorer, whatever. In this my document, it's got to be based on these files, and then it generates a PowerPoint presentation. Because, dude, well, where? I don't see that. I don't see that capability.
We use it with Adobe, where you're actually able.
I hate Adobe.
Well, the Creative Cloud, right? So you're able to take and upload all because that's the problem is like when you use a Chat GPT or Grok or whatever, you're feeding the system. And I don't really want all my stuff out there. I mean, it's different. We get stupid pictures of us, whatever. Nobody cares. But, things that are, personal in nature or whatever, I don't really want that stuff out there. And what you're starting to see are these enclaves where they're closed off. And so you're able to take, like with Adobe, you can create a massive PDF of like every PDF file you've ever had. You could actually bounce something. It's like, hey, create a slick sheet or a marketing sheet for, my capabilities or what my skill sets are. Dude, it's already there. And the great thing about that is it's closed. So it doesn't make it out to the, to the greater audience, but yeah, dude, it's already there. But I'm going to shoot you guys a copy of this link. Yeah. It's actually pretty incredible.
I could talk about this energy and data center nuclear stuff all day long. It's my most recent. I've always been interested in nuclear energy and nuclear weapons. Boy, we're using a lot of keywords. All we need to drop is COVID, and this will be taken off for sure. But
I don't know, man. Do those videos get like reinstated? Like I want YouTube to be like, hey, dude, like, yeah, we have to.
Sorry,
we're gonna open it back up for you.
The thing with the energy is, there's this big push toward nuclear, and I'm seeing it everywhere. Like I've got my news aggregator and stuff, and one of my tags is nuclear, anything nuclear. Yeah, most days recently it's overwhelmed with the Israel and U.S. strike on Iran, but there's all these deals being signed, and I think it was Microsoft just signed on with this nuclear startup to back them on fusion nuclear reactors. Now those don't currently exist because they don't know how to harness it. But if Microsoft and Bill Gates are so convinced that they've already signed on with this thing, we might be getting close to fusion, and that really will revolutionize everything, because that's like free power forever. It's cold fusion, basically. You know, remember that movie, The Saint?
The Saint.
Yep.
But
the reason they call it cold fusion is because it doesn't generate.
I like that movie.
A critical amount of heat. Yeah, it was pretty good. Heat, another Val Kilmer movie.
I love it. I thought The Saint. I don't think it got the due that it really deserved. I thought Val Kilmer was great in it, and what's her name?
Oh, who was the
Elizabeth Shue
actress? Elizabeth Shue. That's right.
Yeah, the Adventures in Babysitting chick.
That's
leaving Las Vegas chick.
Now I just pulled that out, and I couldn't tell you what I ate for breakfast yesterday. That's some
I know, right?
bullshit.
But man, if they've got fusion down, I'll tell you, we don't give stock advice here, but every time one of these new deals is signed, I've thrown some money at some of these uranium mining and refining companies, and so I'm following those pretty close. Not a huge amount of money, but it's some. Every time one of these deals is announced, it shoots up in value. Crazy.
Yeah.
Another one that's shooting up a lot, and I know Josh is happy, is Palantir. Man, that sucker's
buddy.
Looks like it's going to the moon, man. But again, Palantir signed off to some kind of AI / energy thing as well. It's crazy, man. This is Manhattan Project type territory, man. Moonshot Manhattan Project stuff.
I just got to keep an eye on Palantir with the end of the Trump administration to see, depends on who comes into office, whether they're going to at least shut down the government stuff or not, or they just keep it on, but they keep it quiet, depending upon where Palantir goes with his AI.
Did we talk about the last podcast that meme where I guess we did, because we recorded before July 4th, right? The last one. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So the other day I sent you guys that thing. I didn't send the meme, Josh did, but was it July, what was it, 6th or 7th or whatever? No, what was it? July 5th or something. It's like as of noon on July 5th, 12:01 p.m., you are closer to 2050 than you are to 2020. And it's like, ooh, God, dude, that's crazy. It's insane, bro.
It's brutal.
2000, man. What the hell? I was a DLI in 2000. Living life. That seems like just yesterday. It wasn't.
Those were good years, man. Now I was pulling up, sorry for the delay. I was pulling up the, cause just mind boggling. And I don't know what TWH, I don't know, was that like tetra watt hours or something like that? It's a lot. But when you look at, so Japan, they're at 1K, Russia's at 1.2, India's at 2.1, the entire EU's at 2.7, the US is at 4.4, China is at 10.1. That's power producing.
But if you break that out because one of the things the dude mentioned, if you break that out per capita, we still just blow China away, like energy per person, right? But China's catching up. They're on the per capita side. It's just, dude, I think the world is going to look a lot different in 5 years. A lot different. Maybe 10. But are you guys gonna get the Neuralink implant when they perfect it?
Roger, probably be too old. They will be too high risk. But anyway, you old asses, that ain't gonna happen.
They'd be like, they can't survive the surgery. No.
I don't know.
Or the guys would be like, these are perfect because they've had a good life.
Yeah.
One of the two.
You really think the VA is going to pay for Neuralink for us?
Well, I mean, they've, the U.S. government's paid for some other, experiments. Throughout his history.
He better start that other war up here pretty soon.
That's all right. Well, yeah, we just can't make it too big because I don't need to get recalled.
So what was up beyond that now, right? I mean, I know we can always be you can be recalled forever, but I think like once you make it like 5 years, dude,
I can be recalled until I'm 62.
Dude, believe me, the last thing you want to do is show up to my door and try to recall me. You thought I was disgruntled where I was in. Oh Lord.
Yeah, you don't want me.
So why did the Pentagon spike on Pizza Int? Was that last night?
Yeah, I don't know, dude. They were because I think I think I just started following it too because it talks about the Papa John's that's right there by the Pentagon's the closest one, but it was like 3 times the amount of traffic. So I don't know. I mean, You've got, you got Al Noosa front news. You got, BB's in town. I mean, I don't know if any of that warrants a spike in pizzas or whatever, but I don't know, man. I mean, do they have people working over the weekend because of that?
I don't know.
The Pentagon? I don't know.
They might have been dusting off the op plan for Kenya. You guys,
that's
what's going on?
No.
So I mean, Kenya's on the brink of civil war, basically. Obviously a bunch of internal stuff, but like to the point to where guys are starting to hit up folks and be like, hey, does anybody have an interlocutor there? I need to get some folks out before it gets too bad. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to invade Kenya. I'm good.
Apparently the Houthis are getting pounded pretty hard right now too, but it is a Monday.
Yeah. I'm waiting to hear about the next coup in Africa because that's a slow Tuesday. So bring it.
I know. I think I Googled the other day like how many successful coups or something like that in Africa, like in the last 20 years. It's like 20. You basically get like one a year. Yeah, it's like the place is just always at war. But hey man, you got some rare earth minerals there, so.
Well, see, Roger's got me back on Reddit, and one of my favorite.
God bless it, dude.
What do they call it?
School.
What do they call a Reddit thread? What do they call it?
I don't know.
Subreddit or what? Whatever it's called,
dude. It's so stupid.
But it's r/map porn, and it's all just maps, like different maps. I'm a mapophile or whatever you call it, and there's one of different factions in Africa, and that is the busiest map you'll ever see in your life. Like how many active conflicts there are there, where two sides agree, yeah, we're at war with them. There's hundreds of active conflicts. Man, good Lord, it's crazy. And it's got me memes have gone down in quality though over the years. Memes aren't as good as they used to be, because I'm on memes and dank memes. They're just not near as good as they used to be.
Well,
because they're too easy to create.
I was about to say, effort. Yeah, you had used to. Yeah, you had to have a little bit of creative knowledge to do it, and now everybody can. It's like making flying affordable for everybody.
Yeah, and our listener Matt, who we work with, he has a good point. And I'm not even going to try to recreate it, but a meme's got to work on like 3 different levels. It's got to be, number one, like a joke, where there's an element of reality in the joke. It's got to be inevitable and true and unexpected, right? And you've got to, it's got to work on multiple levels. The memes I see only work on 2 levels tops, where you barely get that. The best one you see all day, you barely get just a little sniff out your nose. That's funny as it is. But those memes back in 2015, 2016, son, those were the days for
fire.
Man.
Yeah. Well, now they're just mind numbing, because we'll come up with some, and I get it, we're biased. We'll come up with some pretty good memes every now and then. I'm like, oh man, but you know what? It requires too much thought. That it requires some knowledge, requires some education, requires a little knowledge of history, and it's just lost on 9. It goes back to, the politics that we're talking about with Epstein and this and that. I mean, us 3 track it, and I see it on X with the group that we run with. Nobody else gives a shit, and nobody else, they don't even know, like, Epstein's dead. Like, yeah, dude, he suicided himself, and memes have become the exact same way.
So that's a great point. You guys remember the meme I dropped the other day, and it had the the guy with kind of like the dominoes thing, and it was like Vlad the Impaler.
Oh
right?
yeah.
And then like at the end of it, it was like, kids cereal, sponsored by the, inspired by the chocolate vampire. I sent that to some other people, and they're like, I don't get it. I was like, this is good. Like, this is gold. This is gold. They're like, I don't get it. I was like, whatever. All right, fine. But it's spot on, Roger. 100%. You got it. Yeah. No, man. We're past the golden age for memes.
Just like music, the same 4 chords, right? The same 4 beats you throw it out there. Hey, man, if it's mind numbing, they'll love it. If it's anything that you got to put any kind of thought to, or hey, let me Google this for a second or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, forget it.
Did you see? Did you see the concert with Ozzy and Guns N' Roses and Metallica?
I did see some snippets on there. Yeah, I saw some snippets. I saw, I think Steven Tyler, and then there was one other dude.
Yeah.
Out.
Dude. There was a bunch. Yeah, Black Sabbath was back, and Ozzy. He comes up on bottom of the stage in a big chair with the bat, on top and all black and everything. And he closed it out with "Mom, I'm Coming Home." I don't know if he's got like a terminal illness. I mean, granted, the dude was spring chicken. But like he acted like he's like, hey, I'm not going to be here much longer. Granted, he's probably abused his body a little bit.
I can't believe the dude's still around. Him, Steven Tyler, like most of those people. I'm like,
Keith Richards.
Keith Richards. Like, how is this even? I mean, you look at Ozzy, right? So he's 76 years old, which I thought he was a little bit older than that. I thought he was, in his 80s or whatever.
Dude looks like the Crypt Keeper.
Look at the damage that dude has done to his body over the last, 6 decades at least?
Yeah.
And he's still kicking.
Yeah.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Cocaine and meth or speed
Dude,
or whatever.
Here's, it's sad. It's sad. And, man, we're turning into the old man reminiscing podcast. But, we always talk about, what was the high water mark, of American culture, and you could, as far as we see it, and arguments could be made, that maybe, I think we've said it here before, maybe, grunge, Alice in Chains, Nirvana is the best and the worst thing to happen to the music side of things anyway, because it's like that, well, just throw it all away at this point, almost like Jordan with basketball, it's like, well, what are we going to do now? And ever since then, at least with music, it's like, yeah, what have they done since then? Because before the grunge, you still had, the rap stuff, some good rap stuff.
Good rap. Yeah.
And geez, I mean, it's just been all downhill. And like, where's your next Ozzy Osbourne? And the kids these days will say, oh, that's Drake, or that's Lil Nas X or whoever, somebody I've never heard of before. But with Ozzy Osbourne, hell, my parents wouldn't even let me listen to that music right in the house. Yeah. Like I wasn't about to go buy an album for Black Sabbath, Megadeth. Are you crazy? But they knew who those people were. I couldn't tell you the first thing about any artist out there. I know who Taylor Swift is. I know who Drake is, but they'll never get to that level where Justin Bieber's performing when he's 76 years old and selling out Wembley or wherever he was playing. Yeah. I don't know, but it's kind of a shame, there are positive aspects of it, I guess, but
it's funny you mentioned your parents wouldn't even let you listen to to Black Sabbath. I had to do the Columbia House 10 CDs for a penny, which I'm pretty sure I still owe them that. And I had to sneak like Appetite for Destruction and Use Your Illusion and some of those albums into the house. Now I had cassette tapes, obviously to start with. But I had to sneak that stuff into the house, and I had to listen to it real low with my head up next to my radio because my parents, my dad didn't really care, but my mom, she was like, that's the devil worshiping music,
See, I need to work harder on my production skills during this thing, because now that we can share things, I would definitely, when you were given that, I would pull up the meme where Jesus is coming in the side and it has the Columbia House over there. It's like, have you paid Columbia House for those CDs yet?
I'm pretty sure I still owe Columbia House money for those.
Well, I've heard, I don't think we talked about this before. I heard an interesting thing on that. I think it was Jim Norton on Joe Rogan, who's a weirdo. God, Jim Norton's a weird guy. But he was saying, they were theorizing, and it makes sense, that Columbia House, all it was a promotional studio, so that when an artist came out with a new album or whatever, they'll give them away so that the numbers will bounce their record higher on the charts. So maybe they'll go platinum or gold or whatever. It's like, well, that kind of makes sense because it's cheap as hell to make CDs. But it's super cheap to make compact discs, not like cassette tapes.
When you think about it, yeah, they technically did sell that album, right?
Yep.
For a penny. I've never heard that, and but it makes
sense, right? Tracks.
Yeah.
So when does AI actually make it into the music industry, or does it? Because there are some, I was talking to one of our listeners today, and it's funny because one of his kids, she's into arts and entertainment, and it's live performances are one of the protected industries with that, because you just can't AI that stuff. But we talked about all three of us over the last week. You look at marketing and commercials and this and that. I mean, dude, that no longer do you have to go down, to the big marketing firm in New York City or whatever. I mean, you're creating this stuff here on your laptop in 40, 50 minutes for like $20, but there are industries that are protected from that, right? Is music one of them?
Well, I think where that's going to start. Go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say, you can AI music right now. You can have Chat GPT write.
Yeah, but like good music.
Well, I mean, define good music.
I think here's where it'll start, right?
Fair enough.
And I think it still exists out there. There was a thing called SoundCloud. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
So SoundCloud, I used that back when you could download an MP3 and actually put it on your iPhone. You could convert it into iTunes. Some of these artists out there were mixing up songs, and I would use it for mainly workout, right? Because they mix some good songs, mix and rap into metal, Ice Cube's song, We Be Clubbin', where he samples Survivor, Eye of the Tiger. That's so badass. You can find stuff like that all over SoundCloud. So what I think, I'm gonna actually start looking for it. It's like, hey, AI, make me a song that combines Best Rapper Ever by Tom McDonald, Dragula by Rob Zombie, and in the style of Heilung, that Norwegian chant band. And I guarantee you can do that. And you just have to play with it until it's really good. It probably wouldn't take long. That's where it'll start. And then the music industry will have to figure out how they can make money off that. So I think whether it can compose its own, I think it's a matter of time, dude. It's all based on data and input. So I think it's a matter of time before it makes decent music. And then you'll go to movies. I mean, how could it be worse than some of the crap that's out there right now that Marvel Studios is putting out? Good God.
So I told you guys, we went and saw Jurassic World the other day. It was kind of on a whim. It was like, let's go to a movie and then, look and see what's playing. And you're like, okay, well, all the movies out right now suck. This sucks. So I was like, all right, because Jurassic Park was decent. And so we went and saw Jurassic World. It was okay. Not terrible. Not great. I'd watch it again. Right. I wouldn't pay to go see it again, but if it was on TV and I, sitting on the couch and it was like just surfing, I'd stop watching it again. Cause I mean, dude, it's people getting eaten by dinosaurs. Right. So it's not, I can get down with that. It has Scarlett Johansson in it, which is really annoying because she's annoying and she's terrible. But anyway, that's beside the point. So I always love going to the movies because I love watching the previews for the movies that are coming out, soon down the road. Every single preview was for a Marvel movie, and it was all CGI. Every single bit. It was all CGI. Like they had the preview for Superman, all CGI. They had a preview for another Marvel movie. It was one of these, these stupid, it's like, well, let's make the movie about, where they came from before, where they were when you saw the last movie with them in it. What do they call them? Prequels or whatever. Yeah.
Fantastic Four.
But there was a preview for Fantastic Four, right? So it's all CGI stuff. There was no preview. And then they brought up Jaws, the original Jaws. And I was like, if they try and remake the original Jaws, like I might legit like complete go Unabomber. All right.
Well, it's lazy.
They're not. Well, but okay, so good news is they're not remaking the original Jaws. They're bringing it back to theaters August 29th for a limited time. I'll go see it. And go see the original Jaws in a theater. Awesome. But they're not making movies anymore. And Ricky Gervais talked about this when he, had his, when he roasted everybody that year at the Academy Awards or whatever, the Golden Globes, or whatever that was. He was like, they're not making cinema. There's no, when is the next Goodfellas? It kind of goes back to, the music piece. Who's the next Steve McQueen? Who's the next Charles Bronson? Who's the next Clint Eastwood? Right? There's not really anybody. They're not making like good movies anymore. They're being lazy. They're remaking old ones. They're remaking I Know What You Did Last Summer. Okay, one, nobody cared about that movie to begin with.
Yeah, it wasn't good the first time around.
Exactly. It's like, I mean, I guess if you're going to make it, you at least make it better. I don't know. Like, but nobody's getting amped up and excited. Nobody's getting a chubby to go see, the remake of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like, what? Like, come on.
Some movies need to be remade. Some movies need to be remade in the right way. And I told you guys the other day, I sat down just to relax and watched both of the Dune movies over the July 4th weekend, the new Dune movies. Dude, those are legit, I thought, damn good movies. Well done. The visuals, the CGI was not noticeable. Like, those ornithopters that they're riding around didn't look CGI. It looked pretty cool. The city looked cool, the planet. So in the original Dune, I don't care who tries, it was not good. The one that came out in the 80s, it wasn't good. It didn't follow the book, not even a little bit. Well, it did a little bit, but yeah, that needs to be remade. The movie World War Z needs to be remade. It needs to be remade to match the freaking book. I get
for that movie.
I did too. Good. That was such a letdown, dude.
Yeah.
So speaking of movies, though, y'all seen Kingdom of Heaven, right? The one with Orlando Bloom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The director's cut's pretty cool. It's like 4 hours long. But I was today years old when I realized, remember King Baldwin IV, the king of, or the pre whatever of Jerusalem? He had leprosy and he had a gold mask and everything. That was played by freaking Edward Norton.
Ed Norton. Yeah.
I didn't know that till today.
No, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They said that, and I don't think Edward Norton's a method actor, but they said that he kept that thing on like all the time.
I mean, there's some good actors out there. You're right. The Clint Eastwoods, there are still great actors. You've got Edward Norton. You've got, what's his name? I heard's making a comeback. What's his name? He's Hawkeye in Last of the Mohicans. Gangs of New York. You know what I'm talking about? We always talk about him. Gangs of New York. He was Bill the Butcher.
Yeah, I don't know his name, but yeah, I know who you're talking about.
So I'm not going crazy. Anthony Hopkins is still out there. There's some good ones. Gary Oldman, he's still out there. I mean, I have some hope for entertainment because, like we talked on here, Apple TV, dude. And I still, Roger, I got to thank you for this. I still think about Three Body Problem. I may watch it again, dude. That was so good, right up my alley.
It's funny because we talk about AI and all that stuff. We watched that. And I don't know if you've been watching Black Mirrors, but it's a sci-fi. But they bring up some pretty interesting. I'm not going to ruin it for folks out there, but I was going to ask you guys this anyway. So one, I do think we're going to get to the point where with AI, CGI, where you're basically able to just, hey, here's the book, create the movie. And it'll do it, right? And you're going to end up with a better product because you're going to end up something closer to the book than what, some producers interpreting or whatever. But my question is, what do you think the limits on AI generated people should be? Or should there be, should there even be any limits? And I'll put it in context now. Well, go ahead.
I'll tell you where the limit needs to be. And this is just one aspect of it. Is AI generated child pornography. That you got to draw the line. It starts there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because I've thought about that. Is like, well, is it real? Like, because it starts with art, right? Like you can draw it. That should still be legal? I say no. And I say the same thing with AI stuff. And I think there was a soldier recently who was busted with AI child pornography. It wasn't real, but he still got busted for it because
that's the slippery slope because and dude, I agree with this. Like I don't support it. Like I get it. To me it's a morality thing or whatever. But at the end of the day, it ain't real.
Yeah, and there's no victim.
Right. It's not real. There's no victim. And again, I'm with you. Like that stuff. There are certain, and so anyway, my point being with Black Mirrors, they have an episode on there where, and again, I'm not going to spoil it for folks, but they basically create this digital world, right? Video game or whatever. And if I have some of your DNA, i.e., from like your coffee cup or your vape pen or whatever, that I can create your persona with your conscience at the time in that digital world, right?
You're talking about USS Callister? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. So did you see that?
Yes.
So pretty wild, right? Because they were like, well, hey, what's happening is, those people think they're real. And what's happening is you're getting folks in there that don't like their bosses. They're cloning them and then making them like sex slaves or whatever in this digital world, right? So they ban that stuff. So it just got me thinking, it's like, not only, okay, obviously we had the morality thing. And I think that's just, again, I don't know what the law needs to be. Like, I agree with you. I don't know that you can make it that cut and dry, but you're going to get to the point where, name and likeness, that could apply. But you get to the point where, hey, I don't need Henry Cavill to be Superman. I just need somebody that looks like him.
Yeah.
Right. And at that point, I mean, do I owe Henry Cavill anything? I mean, I guess maybe if you could make that link that you base this off of me, but hey, I need a guy that looks like Superman, AI generated, like the video I'd shot you guys, the link. I mean, dude, that is totally text to video. I mean, take a look at that. 100% text to video. And our listener shot it to me. He's like, take a look at it. He spent about 45 minutes on it. I'm like, yeah, dude, I wouldn't know that was not
a commercial or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I agree, Josh. People aren't ready for this, but it's coming. And that's what's scary about it. I still believe in my AI lab leak prediction coming out of China, but you're right. People aren't ready for this. And the laws aren't ready for it either, as Roger is saying. I think you got to go down the name, image, likeness thing. But if the graphics get so good that it's indistinguishable, the business of acting will go away. Broadway will still be there. But the business of acting in movies, that shit will go away eventually.
So the AI thing in general, did you guys see OpenAI here about a month ago? The article that came out from them, they basically told their smartest AI model that they're working on to shut down, and the AI model refused.
That's and not then just it started
AI. Yeah. And then it started sabotaging its own computer scripts to keep from being shut down. I was like, dude, I've said it before, man. They made a movie about this. It was called Terminator. It did not end well in a lot of ways. Like we got to be careful with this stuff, man. This is the I look at it, and somebody, people are going to call me crazy, but dude, this is the same moral kind of conversations, the conversation about morality that happened with Oppenheimer, right? Should we do this? Those conversations need to be happening now, because once we unleash this thing, that's it. Well, you're not going to put that toothpaste back in the tube.
And everyone's coming to the same conclusion, which is the conclusion they came to back then, which was, if we don't do it, somebody else is. So we need to do it 100%. First. And this is a technology not unlike nuclear technology. This is a technology that anybody can get.
And it has the capability to destroy the planet.
It's all good though, because who's going to regulate this? Some 75-year-old men and women back in DC that totally understand this. They're going to be the ones who regulate this stuff for us.
Who have to have their grandkids set up their new iPhone for them.
Oh God.
Yep. No, that's a great point.
What does he say? Is the world's or something's coming? I can't remember. There's a line from a movie. I want to say it was Clint Eastwood. It's all coming for us, kid. What does he say? It's in Unforgiven, or we all got it coming.
Something like that.
Massacring this.
Speaking of, we all got it coming. Did you see, Roger? I think you threw it in there. That doctor who got fired. Talking
Love
about the floods out in Texas, who'd be like, oh, the Christians or whoever, like they had it coming, and you're like, you are standing on the bodies of dead children
Are people
And
retarded?
you just said that like, wow. Wow.
I mean, like, seriously, like her name, right? Her real name up there, picture, whatever. I'm like, are you stupid? Like, what
That
did
was
you think
wild.
was going to happen?
Yeah.
Dude, our listener David out of El Paso, he called this like right after it happened. He's like, it's in very short order. People are going to politicize this, and on either side, it's despicable. It's despicable.
Yeah. Well, and it didn't take. I mean, it didn't even. I mean, the sun hadn't even come up, before people started politicizing it. And one, you should not politicize, things like that. But the people who did, they're talking about, Trump's cuts to the
Well, they weren't even
National
right.
Weather Service. Well, they weren't even right for two reasons. One, the National Weather Service issued warnings well ahead of time. And two, the cuts to the budgets for FEMA and the National Weather Service and NOAA, all that stuff, those don't take effect until FY26, which for those, keeping score at home, that's a 1 October of this year. Right. So it's like the cuts ain't even happen yet.
So
and even if they did, they still issued warnings. It's so ridiculous.
And this is something that, go ahead.
One of our listeners, he hit it on the head because, I don't think people understand, like in Kerr, Texas, they were talking about within an hour, the water went up 25 feet. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
that's crazy.
Now here in Phoenix and mainly like more specifically when you get down to the Tucson area, and you guys have been there, they use the interstate and the roadways to channel the water, right? That's coming off the mountain or whatever. And so when you talk about flash floods out there, and I've seen cars get washed off, and that's with like a foot or 2 feet of water. Maybe if it's a real torrential downpour, we might see 3 or 4 feet, right? And even like with a wadi, you'll see like a foot. But dude, you're talking about 25 feet. And one of the, one of our listeners, he brought it up. He's like, yeah, because I said, well, they put out the warnings, well in advance. And he's like, yeah, but you know how it is with flash flood warnings. And we'd all do the same. It's like, it's a flash flood. We might get a little bit of water. My car might get a little wet or whatever, but nobody's thinking 25 feet. I mean, dude, that's just insane.
That's what I was going to say. They're calling it a 500-year flood is what they're calling it. And it's just,
how many of those have we had in the last 10 years?
Well, for this particular area, I mean, where all the conditions were just right. And it wasn't just Kerr County that got it. I mean, as far north as San Angelo, they were getting it pretty good. And as far, into Seguin, Texas, San Antonio felt it a little bit. But dude, that's one of the things that emergency management struggles with is alert fatigue. Remember Amber Alerts? When you stop looking at them, and I mean, dude, there are down there so many alerts, but they have to do it that way. And people just stop reading them. And it's like, well, you were talking about it, Josh. I don't know how much you want to share, but you're sitting there having to wake up every hour and check things. Would you have done that? Maybe you would have if that thing in Kerrville hadn't just happened. It's like maybe, you've been, whatever. But it's like, oh, man, it's crazy, man. It's alert fatigue, and it's something emergency management really does struggle with.
Yeah. And it's, when you take a look at it, there's a couple, obviously, there's a lot to unpack here, but when you look at it, it's, I don't know how many times I've heard in the last 10 years, storm of the century, flood of the century, the 500-year storm. You hear it all the time. And it's the boy who cried wolf, and you're absolutely right. It's like being deployed, and you get to the point where, when you hear the incoming alarm, when you hear that Q-36, start a counter battery go off, stuff like that, you hear like, dude, I'm just rolling over. Like I'm sitting right here. Yeah, I'm just like, whatever, man.
Inshallah.
Like whatever. Yeah.
Inshallah, exactly.
And so, but people, they ignore it. And I can't tell you how many weather alerts I've got on my phone in the last 48 hours. In the hundreds.
What else?
I can't stop.
It's not just the alert fatigue, but like on Fox News where it does the breaking news, that used to be like, they do it every day now. So now, you talk about alert fatigue. Now my mind has conditioned itself to just like, okay, it's just whatever.
The other piece to this, and people don't necessarily want to talk about it or aren't talking about it because it's just it's whatever. But I don't know how often that place where, that camp was, I don't know how often that floods. I don't know how often, that river floods. And I don't even know if it was a river. I don't know if it was just a wadi, if it was a creek, if it whatever, right? If it was a slough. I don't know what it was. But I kind of look at it like if you build a big permanent structure within, let's say 500 feet of a body of water that can flood unexpectedly, maybe you should go and relook that. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same principle as New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina. People are like, I can't believe that New Orleans flooded. It's like you built it in a bowl. It is. You literally had to block the water to build it. And then it has a series of levees around it that protect it from the water that is actually higher than the city. Naturally. It's like, it's building it on the coast. It's like people who build on the coast on the beach in Florida. And they're like, I can't believe the hurricane, destroyed my house. It was like, you built it on the beach where hurricanes hit, bro. Like, there has to be at a certain point, people have to go back and relook this. And I get it.
It's risk management that goes back to prehistory. It's not risk management. It's risk assessment, right? And how much risk are you willing to, put up with, right? Because now I say prehistory because of the flood myth, right? Epic of Gilgamesh, the Bible, Aztec writings, all this stuff, ancient Egypt, all these things, dude. And the reason, we're not going to go into the Younger Dryas impact theory or anything like that on this particular podcast, but the reason so many people died in these floods is because they had no choice but to live close to water. Still happens in India and China. I mean, thousands of people get swept away a year because of socioeconomic. They have to live near the river. They have to live near the water source, right? So, but here in the U.S., it's more pronounced because we never expect anything bad to happen, right? And it's why,
which is crazy.
Yeah, and it's why I live next to a lake, right? And even if the dam failed above the lake, we'd still be okay because we're a good 21 feet in the floodplain in our canyon, where our house wouldn't be touched, but we still have to carry flood insurance, right? We still have to carry it. Guarantee in Kerrville, that's not the Frio River. Oh, I'm blanking on the name of the river. Oh, that's a no joke river that runs right through town. Right? Yeah, it's a Guadalupe River.
Guadalupe
runs right through town. So, dude, eventually, that is going to flood like it did. Right. So, I agree with you. And Michelle and I had a conversation about that sitting by the pool on July 5th. It's like, dude, she was like, man, we live right next to that lake. And I had to break it down because I've talked to the county commissioner about it up there. And he's like, dude, that whole dam could fail above this lake. And the houses along the lake are definitely going to get washed out. But if you're not on the lake, you're fine. And he broke it down as to why. And it made sense to me. But we had a conversation about it. And she's always wanted to live by a river. Not anymore, because, dude, I don't trust rivers. I saw a movie called The River back in 1984 or whatever it was, and I'm like, I ain't never living anywhere close to a river. But it's all about identifying that risk. You're going to live next to the beach? You're going to live underneath a dam, Josh?
Hey, right.
It could happen. Just, and when it does, you can't be surprised.
No. And so for us, even in North Carolina, we didn't get it as bad as Texas, but in North Carolina yesterday, we got, there were places that got 10 inches of rain in, the span of a day. And when you think about how much water that is, think about that coming down over an area, a large geographical area. That water has to go somewhere. And that's what, Western North Carolina, it got obliterated just because of the amount of water. And it was this tropical depression, Chantal, moving 5 miles an hour. And it just, it came on in and it just crept, once it hits land, it slows down. And it just, it was very slow moving. It just saturated everything. Like first world problems. The wife, she was out there like, we're having to backwash the pool while it's monsooning to keep the pool from overflowing. And so there's a creek we actually have two creeks, one runs on the south side of our neighborhood, one runs on the north side. Well, it's fed from this big pond lake, a couple miles away that has a dam. And so last night we get the message that this dam is in imminent, it is going to fail. And so it's like, we may have to pack up, right? We may have to pack up and leave. And so we start kind of going through that, that initial planning process. Okay, all right, what do we need to take? Obviously, all right, people, pets, and imported papers, and valuables, that generally, can't be replaced. At least, and get everything onto, then move, stuff up to the second floor, that we're not going to take with us, but want to save, because we're at a high point in our neighborhood, and everything kind of slopes down away from us for the most part. So we're like, even if it does, it probably won't get up to the second floor. Because of the second floor, then hey, you know what? That's just, it is what it is, and what none you're going to do is going to save anything. So, but it just, for us though, just looking at it, it's like, people have got to stop building, and people have got to really, really take a hard look at, because it was a culmination of things. I think one, that water came up quick. Like, that was an insane amount of water to come up that fast. Two, what Roger said, alert fatigue. How many times have we heard that, and well, what's going on? Oh, ICE is, in a park in Los Angeles. Like, who gives a shit? And then you have this people talking about cloud seeding. I don't know if they're cloud seeding, in Texas. I know they do it in Dubai. I don't, I'm sure there's somebody doing it in the States like that. It's like, okay, like I get it. There's some places that need water and they don't get a whole lot of water, like where Roger lives in Apache Junction, because Roger decided to live in a desert. It's like the people in Las Vegas are like, I can't believe that we're running out of water. It's like, I can't believe that you can't believe you're running out of water because you live in a city in the desert.
Don't hear me complaining.
Right. And, so there's a lot of things that we could probably, learn from this. Unfortunately, like most things, it costs a bunch of people their lives, to learn from this. And it's got to say, did you guys see that Coast Guard rescue swimmer?
Yeah.
That guy,
5 saves or something like that or whatever.
165 people. He's been a rescue swimmer for a couple of months. This was his first call out. This was his first call out.
That's like being a SEAL for a couple months and killing Bin Laden.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it is, right?
Yeah. This guy gets there, and it's at that girls' camp. I forget the name of it, like Camp Mystic or something.
Mystic, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And he realizes, he gets there and he's like, I'm the only first responder here. And dude just goes about his job, man. 165, people, mostly kids. And, he talked to it. They interviewed him. I think Fox interviewed him. Somebody interviewed him. And that guy was like, I would have done what any other, Coast Guard rescue swimmer would have done. He named a crew, that he was flying with. He was like, hey, they did the job. All I did was hang on a rope and, grab kids and, and haul them up. He's like, but anybody would have done that. And, that guy should never have to pay for a beer ever again, ever. That guy should.
I just feel bad for the kids, dude. Like you said, there was some loss of life. And like, when you see the amount of kids, like, man, that's just freaking heartbreaking.
Dude, I read,
the same thing happened. I'm sorry. The same thing happened in 1986 in that part of Texas. Church camp was swept away. Yeah. Not this bad, but similar. Go ahead.
Oh, now they found two sisters holding, holding on to each other. They, deceased. That's like, that's got to be heartbreaking. And that's got to be, granted, for the parents, stuff like that, brutal. But, and it's something people don't talk about. And I don't think they talk about enough, but the first responders and searchers out there, finding that.
Oh, yeah.
Finding those kids, man, that's got to be brutal on them too.
That's one case where you got to back the blue on that one, because that's not an easy
100%.
job.
No,
God.
No, dude, no, I don't care who you are, especially, if it was one of us, you're like, it sucks that dude, man. God, this dude's fat. God, man, this dude's heavy. But Like kids,
Yeah.
that's brutal. God, yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah.
Man, you talk about a situation where you're not going to have much hope for survival. Your car gets swept away and you are in your car going down, rushing, swollen. What do you do? What do you do? Like pray for the best? Because man, people don't understand what's going on in that water.
No.
Dude,
No.
it's
there's so much
continuous.
debris in that water.
Yeah.
So you think like you're getting pulled under stuff, like stuff.
And not even
stuff.
deep water, right? It doesn't have to be like the 25 footer. I mean, they don't understand. And we see it here because, like I was saying with Tucson, the roads are, kind of built that way, but there are some waddies on some of the back roads. Dude, they don't understand like that. Hey, when that meter says 2 feet of water, that's going to wash your car down there. Like your car is going to end up on the Mexican border in Nogales. Like that's going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
And they just don't understand because like, oh, it's only 2 feet of water. Yeah. 2 feet of running water that's coming down from Four Peaks about 100 miles away. That's had 100 miles to build up steam and velocity. Right. That's just going to take everything with it. And then, like you said, hey, heaven forbid there's a daggum log. I mean, thank God we don't have a lot of trees out here, but you might see a saguaro cactus come at your ass.
Yeah. It's like, did you guys listen to Ron White? Did you ever listen to Ron White? He did this bit on hurricanes, right? And he was like, I was in Key West and I was talking to the guy. There was a Cat 5 hurricane coming in. And, he was like, the guy was like, I'm in enough, great physical shape that I could withstand the force. He was going to tie himself to this tree. Ron White's like, let me tell you something, man. It's not that the wind is blowing. It's what the wind is blowing. He was like, you get hit with a Volvo, it really doesn't matter how far you can run. Yeah, dude. It's floodwaters scary. Like those are not to be trifled with. And it's one of those, like, I drive a 4Runner and, people around here, like we had a lot of road closures, a lot of flooding, stuff like that. And again, I drive a 4Runner. That thing will pretty much go anywhere. But dude, I look at floodwaters and I'm like, nope, not driving through that. Because water is incredibly and deceptively powerful. And it is unforgiving.
Now, are you still getting rain out there, or is it finally dried up a little bit?
No, so it was sunny today. It was dry. We're getting more rain tomorrow, Wednesday. So yeah.
And Luke, did you see any rain out there where you're? I know you're a little bit removed from it, but did you see any rain where you're at?
Yeah, it's been one of the wettest summer I've seen since 2021, wow, which was the wettest summer I'd ever seen in this area. And this morning I drove through 2 bands of pretty bad low rain. It's been crazy here. It's actually green. We're looking for a house up here, and my wife's like, man, look how beautiful this is. It's this rolling canyon land. Look how beautiful it is. It's like, trust me, it is hardly ever like this. It's usually brown, scrub, southern New Mexico type colors around here. But yeah, it's been really. I think we're going to pay for it. We're going to pay for this mild summer we've had so far, because it's not only wet, it's been mild. There's only been one day over 100, which is crazy for July up here. So we've been lucky. It's actually been humid up here. It's strange.
We've gotten a lot of rain this year, like a lot.
It's climate change, dude.
Right? The climate is changing, right? People are like, oh boy, here we go. The climate is changing. What I disagree with is that we're causing it. The climate's just changing, because that's what the climate's done since the Earth has been around.
What, you don't think the 0.035% of CO2 that we're emitting in the atmosphere is, impacting Mother Earth?
No, man, that ain't it. The Earth is, not to, we don't have a lot of time, and this is a pretty, I'm gonna oversimplify this real quick. The Earth does not care about us. We are not damaging the Earth. The Earth is very resilient. You take a look, and it takes a while, but you take a look at the Gulf of America. Remember the oil spill during Barry's term?
Oh,
you remember Prince William Sound in Alaska way back in the day, the Exxon Valdez? You can't even tell that happened now. And yeah, some of that was because they cleaned some of it up. But dude, that oil they didn't clean all of it up. And the Earth right itself. Mother Nature, the Earth is very resilient. We are not, the ones that are causing the climate change.
And if we did get to a point where we were damaging Earth, the Earth will take care of us.
The Earth will shrug us. Yes.
And that's it. You see it with termite mounds all the time, right? These termites in Africa will wipe everything out, and they'll build this giant mound, and then it dies because they can't travel far enough. They can't travel as far as they've wiped out to keep that colony alive. So it's just the Earth wipes out that colony, and that's just the way it is, man. So real quick, Roger said close out, but we've got a couple minutes here. You guys going to buy anything for Prime Day tomorrow? Tomorrow's Amazon.
I'm thinking about buying that. Thinking about buying that little weather station.
Will it be on sale for Prime Day though? That's the question. Every time I go to Prime Day, it's like a bunch of crap I don't need or want.
Yeah, I don't know. I might buy I've been eyeballing a Florida State hoodie because with the old logo, the original Florida State logo. So not the new one. Scary.
I may pull the trigger on a drone if it's on sale.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yep. First time getting a drone. Yeah. Roger, you gonna get anything?
Nah, I think I pretty much spent all my money this past week. Yeah, dogs are fired up.
His dogs want something. The dog's like, yeah, he's going.
Dogs like, hey man, I tell you what, you mentioned it before, Luke, with the dogs and daylight saving times, and he knows when it's 6 o'clock. Like when it's 6 o'clock, he's like, dude, it's time to eat. Like this is happening right now. I don't care what you're doing.
Heck yeah. Dude, that's what my dog does. He comes and stares at me at 5 o'clock every day. Gets right in my face like, it's 5. Let's go. Chow time.
I know memes aren't as funny when you're describing them, but I'm looking at one right now. I can't stop laughing. You've seen the Bane meme where he's coming at, he's got his arms out like that, like come at me, bro. And then there's a dude in a pink whatever.
A little pink, yeah.
It says with Bane's come at me, it's cigarette companies killing their best customers. And the little pink guy is like condom companies killing their future customers. Dude, I can't stop laughing.
That's a good point.
That's good.
Good. Man. Bro. See, again, that works on a number of levels.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
That was good.
I'm not going to close out, Josh, so
I'm not going to close out. Roger's going to close out.
Dogs ain't going to allow that to happen. Knock it out.
Oh, Lord. All right. Hey, look, you guys, all you little canteen, you guys should be impressed because we got 2 out in 2 weeks. Like it's we're stepping our game up here at C3. We're going to we're going to start putting them out again, right? No, we're not. We're going to put them out when we put them out when our schedule allows. I'm not gonna repeat that old terrible line. That'd be like me telling you that I have the list on my desk, and I just need to review it. So
the list.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate is that the cover art?
It's the cover art.
I love it. We appreciate you listening. As Luke says, a lot. Your time is your most valuable resource, and you give us a little bit, and we definitely appreciate it. So, until next time, take care of each other. Keep those canteen cups full, tightly secured.